Today on our show, man, we're going to do something that we've never done before, and that's use trigger warnings. In the second half, starting at about the 50-minute mark, Adrian and I are going to be discussing the brand new Netflix show, 13 Reasons Why. We're using trigger warnings because of the dark, very mature subject matter of this show, including sexual assault and suicide. But we both thought that this was a very important show, and it's obviously a very popular show, so we're going to be reviewing it and we're going to be discussing it. So, trigger warnings if that's something that may bother you. But don't worry, the first half, chock full of everything else that you guys love. We got Batgirl news, we got Sam and Twitch news, we got Rick and Morty news. All of that, plus the trigger warnings, are next on the Nerdynomicon. This is the Nerdynomicon. I'm Robbie.
And I'm Adrian.
Now, seeing as though it's been an ongoing thing, how have you been this week?
I've been pretty good. Just lots of work, per usual, I guess. But yeah, I'm happy. Doing great. I had a crazy long assignment from a co-host of this podcast that I'm on. He wanted me to watch like 13 hours of television or something. But I pulled it off.
I'm sure this co-host has also accomplished this task as well. He wouldn't ask you to do anything that he wouldn't do himself.
But I would hope not.
Yeah, my week's actually been pretty good too. 13 hours of a certain show as well as trying to keep up with all the news. There's been so many cool things going on this week, and we're getting ready to jump into all of them. You ready for this?
Yeah, hit me with it.
All right, the first one, you brought this up right before we recorded. The Defenders have just dropped a little teaser trailer. It's only like 20 seconds long, but I'm sorry, man. Hashtag get hype.
Are you hyped?
I am hyped.
I mean,
they had me just with the grainy security cam video of all four of them just standing in the elevator. Matt Murdock's got the mask on from season 1. It almost looks like a stocking cap over his face, and he's just standing there. You got Luke Cage just standing there. Jessica Jones jumps up and smashes the camera. But here's the thing. You got Danny Rand over there kind of moving from side to side, almost like he's been shaken up a little bit, or maybe he's feeling impatient or upset or nervous about something. And in the comments and on other message boards, people are already hating on him, same as they did even before Iron Fist premiered.
Well, I mean, I think what you have to understand is with this teaser trailer that they put out, he really only had 15 minutes to learn the choreography for shuffling in the corner. So
that's
I mean,
exactly
it's not
right.
fair.
That's
it's not really a
right.
fair criticism.
It is not. Now, all joking aside on that, come on. Just because he's the only one that moves, aside from when Jessica turns and smashes the camera, I feel like they're looking for reasons to hate Finn Jones at this point.
I kind of agree with you. I haven't seen any hate, but that seems like a ridiculous thing. I think people are still upset just to be upset, and they're gonna hold on to it until something with Iron Fist
it's not
blows them
fashionable
away
anymore.
Yeah,
until unfashionable.
Until there's a fantastic fight scene, or he does something really, really cool that was unexpected, and then they'll be like, oh, "Okay, he's cool, fine."
We solved this already. Give him the mask. That's all they had to do. Give him the mask. And they
didn't. And they gave the mask to the wrong person.
Well, I don't think Charlie Cox knows martial arts either, to be honest with you. But give him the mask in a fight scene and let the kung fu fly, okay? Give them some time to learn some choreography. Give us some Into the Badlands shit, and that show could easily be the best of the Marvel series.
Well,
with what they gave us, it wasn't, but...
I'm sorry. I was just talking about in the elevator. They gave the mask to him, to the Daredevil. Why is he the only one wearing a mask?
Well, because he's the lawyer. I mean, Luke Cage is a convict. Jessica Jones doesn't give a shit about anybody. Danny doesn't care that anybody knows that he's the living weapon. Matt Murdock is the only one that actually has a day job that's halfway reputable. So that I get.
I guess. But then why is he dressed in his old school dubs? Why isn't he in the new costume?
I couldn't tell you, man. I didn't make the trailer. Maybe because the Black Mask was more popular. I mean, God knows I liked it better than the Red Duds. I'm not hating on the Red Duds. I'm cool with it. But I kind of prefer the Black Mask.
So I think Defender's coming out later this year. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe it's got a release date for sometime in September or October.
Okay. So as funny as I think this would be, it's probably not going to be released next April Fool's Day and having like just being 13 episodes of them stuck in an elevator. They're just trapped in an elevator together.
You know what? With the Marvel quality of the shows, including Iron Fist, I'm gonna say it. I don't give a flying fuck what the rest of the internet thinks. I'm gonna say it. With the quality that Marvel's been giving us on Netflix, I'll watch that. I'll watch that, and I'll probably come all over it. I love it that much.
They'll just
Fucking
randomly
spraying it everywhere, man.
they'll drop the hand in one episode through the ceiling, and then
You had to bring in the
randomly
hand. You had to bring in the hand with my metaphor, really.
You already brought in the hand.
Dude, with as good as they've been, especially Jessica Jones, as good as these shows have been, I'm coming unassisted. Okay? A cool wind blows through the room, and I'm just shooting it everywhere.
Yeah, but I mean, you use your hand to like block it, so it's not everywhere. You want an easy cleanup.
Use the iron fist to block it. So, but that's the first thing that we wanted to talk about. We've gotten way off topic here. We're talking about bodily fluids. It's disgusting at this point. Next thing I wanted to bring up. I've been seeing this for a while now. I want more comic book adaptations about the things I used to read when I was younger. You know, I want a remake of Spawn. I want The Savage Dragon. I want Rising Stars. I'd love to fucking direct Rising Stars personally, but I don't see that happening. I don't see that being made for quite some time, even though it would be incredible with the superhero craze that we've got going. But we're not getting any of those per se, but what we're getting is the next best thing. I mentioned Spawn, and we're getting a spin-off. Sam and Twitch has been optioned. Sam and Twitch is going to be made. Well, at least the pilot is going to be made. Sam and Twitch has been optioned by BBC America, which is a subsidiary over here of AMC. Sam and Twitch has been in contact with a certain writer, director, and podcaster that I happen to admire, that I have called many times to be my Patronus. Kevin Smith has been tapped to write and direct at least the pilot for Sam and Twitch. So, for those of you who do not know who Sam and Twitch are, obviously you've never read Spawn, specifically the early issues of Spawn, or the spin-off comic that went on for about 50, 60 issues. Sam and Twitch are two homicide detectives that work in New York City that get caught up in many cases that have to do with the occult, and have to do with demonology, and have to do with Hellspawn in general, specifically Al Simmons, aka Spawn. They deal with serial killers, they deal with evil, they deal with dark forces. Not because they seek it out, but it just happens to fall into their lap because of the precinct that they live in. It seems to be that they are working on a battleground between heaven and hell. Now, those of us who have read Spawn, we realize, no, actually they are working in a battleground between the forces of heaven and hell, with people like the Redeemer and Angela, Al Simmons. These people are all flying around. You got Overkill in there. You've got the serial killer, child rapist Billy Kincaid that's running around. All of these things could play a factor into Sam and Twitch. There's so much awesome that could be going on here, man. The portrayal that we saw in the animated series, back when it was on HBO in the late 90s and early 2000s, I praised their portrayal on that program, man. I don't think that they had a cameo or any characters that were supposed to be them in the live action movie, which is fun because the live action movie had more than its fair share of problems as it was. But we may not be getting Spawn right away, despite the fact that Todd McFarlane has said that the script is done, ready, and he just needs to whittle it down a little bit and then get going on it. This is the next best thing. And there's no telling where we could go from here, because we might get a Spawn tie-in with this series. We may not. But regardless, man, we've got all of the awesome. We've got all of the setup we could hope for. And we've got yet another awesome title that is not Marvel or DC that's being brought to the small screen. Because right now, essentially all we have is The Walking Dead, which some people love it, some people hate it. I think that it really took a nosedive for a while and then righted the ship, and now it's just been a big cacophony of awesome. And we've got Outcast, both of them written by Robert Kirkman. In my opinion, and it's kind of a weird duality. The Walking Dead, the comic is so much better than the show. Outcast, the show is so much better than the comic. Now we're getting something else, not a Kirkman product. We're getting Sam and Twitch. Pilot should be made, and hopefully we'll find out if the series has been completely ordered by sometime in the middle of the summer, like July or August. And if that's the case, we could be seeing this on our televisions as soon as October. So, again, Kevin Smith has been tapped to write and direct the pilot for this. He's also in the process of writing the Bible so that they... Let me rephrase this in nerd terms. Writing the series Bible so that he can present it to the executives over at the respective companies and say, this is how the first season's going to go down, yay or nay. And hopefully they give it the green light. Some of his other products haven't exactly gone the way that we would have hoped. So Buckaroo Banzai is still kind of sort of stuck in development hell, leaning more toward the direction that we might not get it. Mallrats, the series... looks like we're not going to be getting that either. So hopefully this one he gets tapped for and it's going to come to fruition. So let's keep our fingers crossed on this because this sounds so fucking awesome. This is something I really want to see come to fruition.
I have no idea about any of that stuff, but it sounds awesome. I love your passion. Here's what I know about Spawn. He looks badass.
Yes.
His cape is awesome. And he kills things with chains. And he fights demons, I guess, because it's like
that's the thing. Technically speaking, he kind of sort of is a demon. But yes, he does fight demons and angels.
But he rebels, yeah.
Yes.
He's a rebel, but he has a cause.
Exactly. And he does have a cause, and he does it all for love, which I think is a really cool thing. He made this agreement with Malbolgia, one of the princes of hell, just to be able to see his wife one last time, which I always found so damn cool.
And then she was with his best friend.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Malbolgia sends him back like 7 to 10 years after he had died. So it's not exactly like, oh, I'm burying him, I'm going to get with Terry. That's not exactly what happened. It materialized over time. It took a long time for her to get to that point, and Terry just happened to stay close to help her go through the grieving process. Now you can call bro code into account all you want. I kind of sort of get it. You know, and Wanda deserved to be happy. Even Al agreed Wanda deserved to be happy, and he harbored no ill will toward Terry once he found out the true nature of how everything went down. So, I mean, I get that. But Spawn's story aside, Sam and Twitch are background characters in this story, and that's what we're going to be getting. We're going to be getting demons, the occult, probably serial killers. We might see Billy Kincaid in this, which is a horrifying villain. An absolutely positively horrifying villain, and we might get the murmurings and the repercussions of what's going on with Spawn in the background, just because Spawn plays such an intricate part of that universe. We may not get Al Simmons, we may not get the visuals of the cape and everything, which I want. I mean, people might be sitting there going, God damn it! No, trust me, I want it too. But even if we don't get that, the implications of what we might be getting further down the road are worth holding on to. I mean, if this show gets produced, if this show comes out and this show dominates, which I think it probably will, because it's just got such a cool original premise. You know, it's a formulaic cop drama that deals with evil and demons. You know, something that hasn't been done all that much, with the exception of possibly Sleepy Hollow. I think that we might even be able to get either A, a Spawn movie far faster than we were expecting, or B, the introduction of Spawn in season 2. Or maybe even better than that, a tie-in between the two.
That sounds pretty awesome.
So,
I love my expansive comic universes, I guess, when we're talking about TV, movies, that stuff. It's nice when they have connections and span multiple shows so they can each explore different themes, different characters, different struggles. Here's one thing I just realized that I can contribute to this discussion that you probably know nothing about.
Oh, here it comes. Hit me up, Adrian.
So, I was going to ask, did you know? But maybe it's an asshole thing to do. I'm going to assume that you did not know. There is a concept album based on the story of Spawn by the band Iced Earth called The Dark Saga. And it's awesome. And you should check it out.
I did not know this. I was completely unaware of this. And now I want to stop the episode so I can go listen to it and then restart this. But we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that.
We're not going to do that.
We're not going to do that. But by by the time we record next week, I will have listened to this album.
You have to check it out, and I'll point out a couple tracks that are really good on there. "I Died for You" is really good, and then the very last track on the album, "A Question of Heaven," awesome song. The entire album is pretty good, but those ones I remember sticking out to me. So
give them a plug one more time. Album and band.
Iced Earth is the band. The Dark Saga is the album. It's a concept album based on Spawn, and this is 20 years old. Jeez,
Jesus.
Now I feel old. It was released in 1996, but yeah, still relevant today apparently.
Apparently so, and I'm in. I'm totally in for this. Last bit of news that I've got before we move on to April Fools is we now have yet another person that's crossing between two worlds. Joss Whedon, who is the director of both Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron. Adrian, I'm assuming you know Joss Whedon from back in the day, right?
Oh yeah, him and we go way back.
Yeah, you know him, with the Buffy of it all, the Angel of it all, little Dollhouse sprinkled in there. Maybe a touch of Firefly for the ladies, just kicking it one time.
Well, I mean, you don't want to touch the ladies and the Fireflies. They don't like that, unless they've given you permission.
Yeah, unless they give you express permission. What would you do if I told you that Joss Whedon, again, the creator of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the creator of Angel, the creator of Dollhouse, Firefly, director of The Avengers, was going to be making a Batgirl movie?
I would say good luck. Not that I think it's going to be bad, but it's going to be really interesting. It's kind of like a unstoppable force versus an unmovable object. It's kind of like Joss or Josh? It's Joss, right? No
Joss.
H.
Joss.
He makes some pretty good movies.
Yes, he does.
The DC Universe's movies are pretty bad. So one of those things is going to have to give, unless it just turns out okay, mediocre, I guess. But I think one of those curses is going to break, or I guess blessings if you're Joss Whedon.
See, here's my opinion. I heard this, and I just could not believe what I was hearing. I had to reread the article 4 different times. I had to re-listen to Fat Man on Batman twice just to have this sink into me. Because, yeah, overall, the DC cinematic universe has not been great. I don't think it's been horrible by any stretch of the imagination, but it has not been great. Man of Steel, bad. Batman v Superman, good.
Bad.
Well,
bad.
I liked it.
Bad.
I've said it before. I liked it in spite of itself.
Bad. Bad.
It tried so hard to make me hate it, but it failed even in that. But there was a lot of issues that I had with that. Suicide Squad? Oh, God.
I haven't seen it.
We reviewed Suicide Squad on this show, and I don't even remember anything about it. That should be telling you something. And the trailers should have made this the best comic book movie ever made. But it didn't. They didn't do it. I remember Jared Leto sucking ass, and I remember Margot Robbie being fantastic, and I remember Deadshot playing a lot better as Captain Boomerang, and that's pretty much it. Suicide Squad, bad. Here's the thing. Joss Whedon being tapped to make Batgirl, I think is brilliant, because Joss Whedon is known for writing such incredibly powerful female characters. His universe, the way he made his name was based on feminist power, and to utilize that talent to revamp and hopefully refocus the DC universe, I think is the best decision that they've ever made. You need to get rid of the Zack Snyder of it all. He has a phenomenal eye for film. Never let that man near a keyboard, ever. Stop putting him in the main director's chair. Use him as a DP. Use him as an assistant director. Utilize his talents. But this man is not a great filmmaker. He's got 300 and what else? Okay, Watchmen looked great. Sucker Punch looked great. BVS looked great. Justice League looks like it's going to look great. I am very apprehensive about this movie. I like his aesthetic, and he's got the only aesthetic I would ever trust with bringing Saga by Brian K. Vaughan to the big screen. That being said, As a storyteller, he's terrible. I I I think he's just abominable as a storyteller. Joss has an eye for it. He has the fingers for it when he's writing the dialogue. He's got the feel for it. So to not give him Batman, not give him Nightwing, but to give him Batgirl, it tells me this. They realize that the cornerstone of their DC Universe franchise is not Superman like they were trying to make it. No, it's Batman. So to bring in the Bat family with a powerful feminist writer and director like Joss Whedon, I think that's saying that they're rededicating themselves down the line. I do not think that we're ever going to get that standalone Flash movie. Okay, and lots of people are echoing that sentiment. I barely know who Cyborg is, let alone want or expect a solo movie about him. They've won me over with Aquaman because I want to see Jason Momoa with that trident. I want him. I want to see that movie. That's really one of the only reasons I'm looking forward to Justice League at all. Wonder Woman was the best part of BVS, so I'm excited as hell to see the Wonder Woman standalone film this year. Don't fuck me, Warner Brothers. Don't fuck me on this.
Oh, they're gonna fuck you hard and dry, my friend.
Probably are. They probably are. I expect it. I'm optimistic, but I'm cautiously optimistic. So I think they're realizing that the best thing that they've got going for them right now is the Bat. And right now they're still kind of playing off of the nostalgia for the Christopher Nolan movies. Because there's a whole generation out there where that is their holy trilogy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Batman Begins, Dark Knight, Dark Knight Rises. Those movies are the holy trilogy for a whole generation, not for, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi like it was for us. The Star Wars was our holy trilogy. Batman is a whole new generation, so to focus on that as opposed to trying to build their cinematic universe the way Marvel did, Marvel's done it, and Marvel did it better than you. You have the Berlantiverse on television. You need to utilize that, and if you want to jump into the big screen and create your universe that way, you need to go with what works, and you need to tap the people that make it work. You need to give them a little bit of leniency to tell the story their way and then go from there. And I think that this is a step in the right direction. I could be wrong and this could blow up in his face. This could blow up in all of our faces. Maybe this movie will never even go forth. But as of right now, this has got me so hyped. I'm beside myself. I think this is the best decision that they have ever made.
You get super excited about stuff. Like,
I
it's
really
great.
do, man.
It almost rubs off on me in my negative asshole background. I don't know. I just don't trust them to do it right. Until they show me they can do it right, I don't trust them that they're going to do it right. Marvel's proven that they can do it right. So even if something sounds like out there or off, I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt because they haven't shown me that they can do it wrong, really. I mean,
really? Not even with Thor?
I didn't really watch Thor, to be fair. But you know what? If you get one stinker or one mildly mediocre movie out of the 10 or so that they've done, I think that's 90%. That's an A-. I think that's pretty damn good.
So here's the thing, and I'm not discounting everything that they've done in the past because I would be stupid to dismiss all of that. Okay, Suicide Squad happened. Whether we wanted it to or not, it happened to us. Man of Steel and Superman Returns, they happened to us in a big, bad way. And we didn't want it once we had it. We didn't want any of that. But here, DC, between the two of them, DC has the better group. I think they have by far the better rogues gallery, which to me is the best cornerstone of any superhero intellectual property. They've got by far the best concepts of heroes. I think Batman is probably the most fascinating superhero of all time. I think that Wonder Woman has possibility. I think Superman is way too super, and if they're bringing him in, I want to see him in the Injustice storyline. Okay, I want to see bad Superman. I want to see an alternate universe where Lois Lane dies and his brain snaps and he's the big bad and they got to take him down, which is the whole story of Injustice. I don't know if we're going to get that, but if you want to give us gritty and dark, grim dark, I believe is the term, that's what I think they should be going toward. Not Dark Side, not the Parademons. Although I give them props for doing it, Marvel is already 10 steps ahead of you with Thanos. Okay, Darkseid is DC's version of Thanos. Marvel is doing this and they're doing it better. So you need to figure out a way to do your own thing. And that's why I think a move like Joss Whedon has got me so excited, because it shows that they're shifting away from it. If they were dedicated to the plan that they put in place, giving us The Flash, giving us Cyborg, giving us Wonder Woman, giving us a few Justice League movies, giving us Aquaman, just going down their gallery and not deviating from the plan, which is what Marvel does, I would be really worried, and I think that could lead them to bankruptcy, or at least the brink of it. This shows me that they're restructuring. This shows me that they're paying attention to the hype that's online, that they're seeing that the reason that people are so hyped up about Justice League is Jason Momoa. So I think we're going to get Aquaman. They're listening to us as far as how everybody reacted to Wonder Woman. Gal Gadot playing her specifically. And they're giving us the Wonder Woman movie, which, again, I think looks incredible, but I am worried. I am worried about it. I'm very apprehensive. And if that movie is terrible, I won't be going to see Justice League. It's as simple as that. I'll wait till DVD and I'll rent it, or I'll wait till it's streaming, one or the other. Mm-hmm. But they will get my $10 when I go to see Wonder Woman. But giving us Batgirl, that restructures things, man. I mean, I was talking with Brooke earlier. Ezra Miller seems like a waste to me for playing Barry Allen as the Flash. That's another reason I don't think they're going to be making this movie. Because they have Grant Gustin, they have the Flash, and they've got someone that's doing it so well they made me care about a guy that runs really fast. Because I didn't give a shit about the Flash. Out of all of DC's character, I gave the least shit about Superman, the Flash, and the Green Lantern. Everybody else I actually enjoyed. Grant Gustin, Greg Berlanti, Kreisberg, they found a way to make me care about that show, and probably care about that show more than I've cared about any of the other DC shows on TV. I don't think that they're going to be making this movie for a number of reasons, but that's the number one. I think that they're wasting Ezra Miller in this role when he would have been a phenomenal Nightwing, and they could have based their franchise around the Bat universe and brought in other heroes to build that center. Okay? Because they're not Marvel. They can't be giving all of these standalone movies big, group movie. All of these standalone movies, big group movie. They're not going to be able to do that. They've whiffed too many times. Nobody's going to buy it. So you got to do something different. And I guess I'm just talking myself in a circle right here, so I'm going to end it there. But that's what I feel like they're doing by bringing Joss Whedon in for Batgirl, and I couldn't be happier with that decision. It's given me a new fire and a new vigor for the DC Cinematic Universe. It's given me a fire that is all but went out. Like, Wonder Woman is my last bastion of hope for the cinematic universe. And even if this movie tanks, knowing that Joss Whedon's in the back with Batgirl makes me ready for Phase 2. And that's what I'm going to call it as soon as that movie comes out, is Phase 2.
Okay. Well, I hear what you're saying. I guess I'm more cautious than you. I'm more in a negative mind space about the DC universe, because I feel like the only character they've ever done right, at least recently, has been the Batman series. And so, I mean, you could make an argument for...
It's you and the rest of the internet, too. So, I mean, it's not like you have to defend yourself to me.
Yeah,
I feel more like I have to defend myself to the world by my statements.
I mean, you do constantly.
For multiple reasons.
But you can make an argument about the old Superman movies early. They're classics as well. That was a little bit before my time, but you're
talking Christopher Reeve and everything,
right? Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So that's legacy. We're not talking about those movies.
Exactly. That's so far removed from where we are now.
Right.
It's like talking about Tobey Maguire Spider-Man when they're on the next iteration past Andrew Garfield. It's like, that happened and it was great, but that's not what's going on now. So you can't really, you can tip your hat, give them a nod, but it doesn't really play into what's happening right now, what they're doing with the properties right now.
Exactly.
So I find it hard. I find it hard to get excited about DC stuff because it just hasn't been treated very well. I don't know that much about DC comics other than the basics, like your Batman and your Superman. I never delved that much into it. Flash was always kind of boring to me. It's like, oh, he can run fast. And after a while, you find out that he's stupid overpowered. Like, it's not just he can run faster than the speed of light, which means he can travel back in time, but also he can vibrate his molecules at really high rates. It's just like he becomes like ridiculous. Kind of like how they just keep on tacking on powers for Superman. It's like, oh, he's got heat eyes and cold breath, and he can fly. And
did
he's
you
super
watch
strong.
the CW show at all?
I did not.
Do me a favor, check out the CW show, just a couple of episodes of it, and tell me that doesn't hit you right in the heart. Because Grant Guster brings so much to this role, he makes me give a shit. Because overall, I'm right there with you on your opinion until I finally buckled and watched The Flash on the CW. That was the minute it changed for me. Because and it's all because of Berlanti and Kreisberg's universe that they're building, and it's because of Grant Guster as the actor. That is when it changed for me. Aside from that, don't give a shit about The Flash. That's why I never was happy with Ezra Miller in the role.
Okay. I mean, as I said, because of everything that's happened, I've just kind of stayed away from it. And I never got into comic books that much either. Like if I was getting comics, which I really didn't as a kid, I was always more interested in the Marvels. Like the Spider-Man was my jam.
We're aware of this.
Love the X-Men and all that. Like those. It's funny because it was the ones that were on cartoons, but they were also the ones that were like they seemed the most interesting to me. Mm-hmm. Aside from Batman. Batman, I thought is a very interesting character. Just very, very interesting. Don't ask my girlfriend because she'll tell you that he's a whiny, rich bastard. And that Superman is so much more interesting, even though nothing hurts Superman except for little green rocks that magically all end up on this planet. This planet blew up how many light years away, and somehow all of these chunks of that planet are ending up on our planet somehow. What are the mathematical odds?
Exactly. Well, we've gone a lot longer than anticipated on the news portion, but that's all the news that's fit to print, or at least jibber jabber about. So
jibber jabber.
So what else has happened? April Fool's has happened that you wanted to bring to this table today.
I did. There was some really, really good April Fool's stuff going on. We won't spend too much time on it, but you just you want to give shout outs to stuff that catches your eye and is funny.
Hell yes.
And yes. I'm not talking about the somebody put this rubber band around the dishwasher hose so from rinsing your sinks in the faucet, and so when you flip it, you got his shirt wet. Like the old lame April Fool's pranks. We're in the digital age where companies, if they have the means and the desire, they can pull off some really fun, crazy stuff. So like Cartoon Network put googly eyes on all of their main characters.
And how was that not awesome?
In the shows,
my God.
In the shows and in the promos. And they went a step further. They weren't just like googly eyes that just happened to be there and randomly moved around. They seemed to actually move, like the eyes themselves would take the physics from the motion of the characters underneath. It was really, really funny.
I checked out a couple of them. I swear to God, man, they looked like me after I've been pounding Jack all night. Holy shit, those googly eyes were great. Oh my God, it was so perfect. Funny.
And yeah, it was great. It made me actually watch Cartoon Network for a little bit, which I haven't done in a long time. So
right.
So props to the crew over at Cartoon Network for that April Fool's Day prank.
Absolutely.
Next one was Netflix Live. I sent this one over to you. That was pretty funny. I didn't catch it when it was actually live. I don't know if it actually was live at any point, but it should still be up. They had about a 1 hour snippet of it, and it's literally just Will Arnett randomly narrating and making jokes about things that are happening in the Netflix offices on these cameras. That's it.
Let me give you some context as to what I experienced when I was watching this. I'm sitting down watching the show that we're about to review, 13 Reasons Why. So I'm sitting down there, I'm blubbering like a fucking baby. I've got tears streaming down my face, and all of a sudden you text, you need to check out Netflix Live. Just do it now. So I back out of it and I go up to Netflix Live and I click it, and I'm just seeing Will Arnett talking about a burrito in a microwave for 5 minutes, and I'm like, I don't understand what's happening. I don't understand this. So it was like I got done watching a Taiwanese commercial, because they get me right in the heart too, to having somebody just assault me with a feather. And I'm like, I swear to God, dude, I sounded like my mom during menopause. I was experiencing hot flashes, I was crying, I was laughing, and I'm pretty sure I kicked the dog, and we didn't have a dog in the room at that point, so I don't know what I actually kicked. But, dear God, man, it was emotional. It was an emotional roller coaster. And I needed chocolate and ice cream. I finally feel like I know what it's like to have my period.
Just because of Netflix Live?
Just because of Netflix Live at that exact moment. I don't think it would have affected me as much if I wasn't watching 13 Reasons Why. But dear God, man, I needed butterscotch, okay? I had a Canadian period.
Wow. Wouldn't that be
Yes.
like some kind of maple? Wouldn't it be like maple syrup, something or other? Like pancake?
Absolutely not. It's a well-documented fact that butterscotch is to Canadian women what chocolate is to regular American women. Yes, I said
Oh,
regular and American.
as opposed to like the diet Americans.
No, as opposed to Canadians. What are you talking about?
The North Americans. The North Americans.
That's just a shout out to a couple of our Canadian listeners too. No, I'm just fucking with
Is that
some
going
of
to
our
piss them
listeners
off?
here.
Is it going to make them mad?
No.
I mean, Canadians, they don't really get mad. They'll probably
Yeah,
apologize.
basically all they do is smile, drink beer, and play hockey.
Hey, that's not a bad life. I might move up there just for that.
Hey, do you see me being upset about that? That's the dream. That is like the dream.
Oh, and healthcare is paid for with taxes.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have Donald Trump leading their country.
Yeah.
Actually, this place is sounding better and better by the minute.
All right, you're trying to get me to start laughing and crying and craving butterscotch, aren't you?
I'm getting there.
Continue explaining what happened on Netflix Live, you fucker.
It was just him narrating still camera shots. They weren't still shots, so the cameras weren't moving around, but there were things happening on the camera feeds, and he was narrating. Somebody put a burrito in a microwave, so he narrated that for about 3 to 5 minutes. Then he was narrating somebody in the break room making toast. Then he was checking on the printer and seeing if anybody was. It was really mundane and boring, but it was actually incredibly impressive.
It was hilarious.
To see him like come up with stuff right off the spot. I don't think it didn't seem like it was
scripted at all.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it was scripted. It seemed like he was just talking, and then he'd have like this funny thought that would just pop into his head, and then he would go. So if it was scripted, that's extremely impressive that he was able to make it look like it was off the cuff. And
now I'm going to pause this
scripted,
for just 1 second because you told everybody who this was. This is Will Arnett. But lots of people are not great with names, so I'm going to break this down. This is Job from Arrested Development, or, more in keeping with the times here, the voice of Lego Batman. That is who this is. So just to give our audience a little bit of a context as to the hilarity that's ensuing, Lego Batman is narrating the burrito in the microwave.
And making jokes off the cuff.
Yes, exactly.
And they're really good. They are hitting. They're landing. So I would say check it out if you haven't seen it. You don't have to watch the full 50 minutes. I don't think I did. I think it's maybe 15 to 20 minutes. You will watch a lot longer than you thought you would. If somebody had said, yeah, it's a guy narrating people making burritos and toast and other office things, and it's a testament to how good he is that he pulls you in. You're just like, okay, I'm going to watch until the end of this burrito. And then he'll hit you with this joke towards the end, and you're like, "Oh shit!"
And that's exactly
I'm
what
gonna
he did to
keep
me
watching.
too. Because I was only going to watch a couple of minutes just to figure out what the hell this was, and then I'm like, I don't understand. I ended up watching for a half an hour.
Right? And that's incredible. And that's just here's an April Fool's Day prank from Netflix, courtesy of Netflix.
God. So that happened.
So that happened, and then somebody decided to recut the It trailer, the one that we were just talking about recently.
Yes.
And they made a subtle change, but it's still kept the tone.
Very subtle. Very
subtle.
Small, very minute.
They kind of hit you over the face with it, but it's still, in the grand scheme of things, pretty subtle. And they just changed the clown to be the Cat in the Hat from, was it Mike Myers?
It was Mike Myers, yeah.
From the Mike Myers movie. They just cut him into the trailer. Did a really good job.
And here's the thing. It's still scary as fuck.
It's still scary.
This trailer is still horrifying. If you want to see this trailer, check out the Nerdynomicon Facebook page, all right? Because we put it in there. This trailer is still terrifying.
And incredible. You can't look away. You can't.
Not for a second. Because then you're going to miss everything.
So that was all the April Fool's pranks, except for one April Fool's reverse prank. So last year for April Fool's, I believe it was, and maybe it was 2 years ago because they don't release episodes on any good fucking timeline. A couple years ago or last year, Rick and Morty had an April Fool's prank where they played I don't know if it was the entire season or just the first episode from the upcoming season 2 on April Fools, but they played it in this really, really tiny box in like the corner of the screen, and there was no sound. So you really had no idea what was going on. It was there. It was the episode. I think they told people it was premiering or something. They got people really good that time. So they had another prank this year, except it wasn't a prank. It was a reverse prank.
Yes,
where
it was.
they just played the first episode of the 3rd season, which is coming out God knows when.
This summer.
And they played that. They just played that, I think, for about 4 hours straight.
Oh my
just
God,
on
it
a
was
loop.
for 4 hours straight?
It was on a loop, and it was just kind of like wherever you started, you could watch to the end and keep going. But they were banking on the fact that they got people so bad last time that no one would check it out, and then they would find out later that they got pranked because their favorite show released a new episode and they didn't think it was real.
And here's the funny part: it immediately went up on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
In 24 hours, it was yanked. We also put that up on our Facebook. Within 12 hours of putting that on our Facebook, I think 12 is generous. Within 6 hours of putting that on our Facebook group, it was down.
I think you can stream it at adultswim.com. I thought I saw that somewhere.
Really? Because I checked out On Demand, I checked out Hulu, I checked out every streaming site that I have available. I got nothing. So I ended up just happening to find it on YouTube. And we watched it very briefly. By the time that we'd finished the episode, several of the other sites had gone down. Several of the other people that posted it had it yanked. So we were very lucky by finding it too.
So let me see. I would have sworn that I saw that you could stream it. I'm checking that right now because maybe that was just for a short time.
Because also, just to review this episode, it was great.
Oh yeah.
My God, it was absolutely fantastic. It brought back everything you love. It apologized for the down note that season 2 ended on, which was such a goddamn cliffhanger. And it just gave it all right back to us. It gave it all back. And Rick is a son of a bitch. Oh my God. I don't know whether to hug him because he's back or drown him because he's Rick. But it's happening to us, and it's coming back this summer.
Oh yeah,
what is based on everything that I've been reading.
Say, if you can find it, watch it. I laughed my ass off, and I did not think. I was telling Tavio as we were watching, it's like they keep getting bigger and bigger and better and better. There's going to hit a point where they can't top what they've done. And I'm going to be really sad at that point because it'll probably be on the downslope at that point. But I didn't think that they keep creating these crazier intricacies of plots of how they're going to get out of these things that they read, these corners that they wrote themselves into, that you're like, oh, well, this is going to change the series. It's like, nope, here's how he's going to fix it. And you're like, what? So yeah, definitely check it out. That's one of my favorite shows out there right now.
Awesome. So what do you think? Is it time to finally, I think we've dragged our feet enough on it because I don't know about you, but I've been dreading talking about this. I think it's time to move on to our main review and then our main topic for the night.
I think that's a good plan. I don't know that I'm ready for it, but...
So, Netflix on Friday dropped what has been hailed as the newest sensation on television, and it blew up on Twitter. It was called 13 Reasons Why. If you haven't seen it, or if you haven't heard about it, you want to know what the show's about, what everybody's talking about, you haven't heard about it, and you want to know what the fuck we're talking about. It's about a young girl who commits suicide, and she leaves behind 13 cassette tapes, almost as an alternative to a suicide note. And in these 13 cassette tapes, she breaks down 13 reasons, or more specifically, 13 people that were responsible for her taking her own life. And it plays out as a mystery with several other plots that are kind of woven into it as to what were the key reasons that made life so difficult for this girl. It's based on a 2007 book by Jay Asher. I know that Selena Gomez has been attached to this project since 2009 when the book and the project were brought to her. She was originally attached as the main character, Hannah, the girl that kills herself. But she did not think that she could do the character justice, which I don't mean to sound like a dickhead, but I agree. I don't think she could have. So she decided to step back and play the role of producer, which she nailed it. I mean, her producing on the show was phenomenal because she did have say in a lot of the casting and whatnot. And the cast, I can't praise this cast enough. I really cannot. I think that everything just fell together for this. I think the casting was brilliant. I think that the performances that every single character gave, no matter how small and minute, was astounding. Okay, everybody from Clay, who's essentially our main character, he's the main protagonist that you follow throughout the show. Quiet, soft spoken, mild mannered kid who you see as it alternates between the present day where she's dead and the flashbacks where she's still alive and the stories are playing out in that aspect. You get to see how his relationship with this girl progressed. And he's just he's the kid that you hope that your daughter dates, you know, and he's the son that you hope that you are raising. That's the type of kid that Clay is, or at least to me. You know, I really liked him. I thought he was a great guy. And for me at least, the most compelling thing for quite a while was, why is he on these tapes? How is this kid on these tapes? This doesn't compute to me. This does not match up. And it just had me riveted. So we're gonna keep this review relatively short because our main topic is gonna deal very heavily with the second half of this season. I thought that this show was absolutely spectacular. I thought that it fired perfectly on every single cylinder. This was a very difficult show to get through, especially in binge watching, but I think it's a very important show. As I've said just a second ago, the acting is top-notch. The directing is phenomenal. This show also had one of the best soundtracks I have heard in forever. I swear to God, in every episode, it's almost like they featured a new song, like they used to do on the WB and the CW. Like, featured on this episode was this song. I could not say enough about every single aspect of this show. Seriously. Adrian, let me kick this over to you. Time for your review of it.
Okay. I am not as glowingly positive as you are, per usual. But that's not to say that it was bad. It's not to say that it was bad, but there were certain things about it that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And again, I thought it was great, but here's the things that kind of stuck out to me on the negative side. And it was, I don't know, I felt like some of the relationships didn't seem to make a whole lot of sense, or some of the characters' actions didn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. Specifically, what I'm talking about in this case is Clay. He seems to, and he claims to really care about this girl who ended up killing herself. Mm-hmm. And one day, he finds on his doorstep a bunch of tapes of her. And, you know, it's her voice. She's telling, you know, I want you to listen to this. I want everyone to listen to this. And he takes so damn long to go through those tapes. I get, he's like, oh, it's so painful. Oh, man, I loved her. It's like, I feel like if you actually loved someone that much, you would want to hear every last word they had to say as soon as possible. I mean, they're talking about some of the other people that get these tapes, going through them in a night. You know, going through them in one night and just binging, you know. And he's taken, I don't know, they don't do a great job of, you know, the passage of time and depicting it.
Yeah. That's one thing I will say is the chronology is a little bit convoluted. I will say this, taking a look at his cut that he does develop in I think, what is it, the second episode where he gets run off the road?
Right.
It's either the first or the second episode. Taking a look at that, because they do pretty well as far as continuity on the show, I would have to say that the chronology of the show takes place within less than a week.
Really? Because I feel like he got that, and then it seemed like it was healed, and then it seemed like he opened it back up with another hit or something. I don't know.
No, anyways, I feel like it took place within about a week.
Okay, but let's say 13 tapes, or it's really 7 tapes, you know, 6 double-sided and one half.
Right.
And maximum you could typically get on those tapes was about 90 minutes, 45 per side. So I don't see it. It shouldn't take a week. It really shouldn't. It shouldn't. Not if you love her.
I see what you're saying, but I almost feel like that's also the counter argument to that is the fact that he did love her. Okay, so on one hand, rehearing her voice after dealing with the fact that she's dead is kind of a jar to the system. I also have the impression that he listened to some of these tapes a couple of times just to completely absorb everything that's going on, because there are certain episodes I almost feel like I should have rewatched just to completely absorb everything that happened.
Hmm.
But here's the key thing. This guy also loved her, and the way this show is set up is he comes home one day and finds these tapes sitting there. And what happens is you're supposed to listen to all of the tapes and then pass them on to the next person on the list. So several other people have already listened to these tapes and already know all the secrets that are on them. And then they give them to the next person, and then the next person, and the next person. So several people already know that they know that other people know all of their secrets. And if this does not take place, then she's got a plan for it to essentially go nuclear, and the tapes are getting released to the world. So here's the thing. This is just coming from me and what I think I would react to if I was in the situation, and I hope to God I never am. I think it would be very difficult for me to get through them, and I would dread getting through them because I don't know if I want to hear or if I'll ever even be ready to hear why my name is on these tapes. So I almost feel like he was dragging his feet to get to his tape.
I get that, but at the same time,
I see your
don't.
logic, and I'm not arguing it. I'm just proposing a counter, a counter argument to it, or a different way of thinking of it, because I see what you're saying, and a week does seem mighty fucking long, but that's what I think it was going for. Again, I have not read the book, so maybe the book deals with it in a different way, but that would be my assessment of it.
Okay, I mean, I understand that, and that's what they were kind of going for as the explanation. I just didn't buy it, I guess is the best way to put it. I just didn't buy that as the explanation. So there was that. The other thing that kind of bothered me is it seemed like I kind of want to call her the main character, even though Clay is the one that you're following the story of. It's all related to her pretty much.
Yeah.
So I'm going to call her the main character. The way that she's portrayed, it seems to vary wildly in her confidence and her ability to pull things off. I mean, there are things, and I get that you're young and sometimes you're confident, sometimes you aren't. Like I get the basic argument against this statement as well, but I just don't think it holds water. There are certain things that just they don't add up. Like the thing that really stands out to me is going through the tapes. You find out that one of the earlier people on the tapes is her first kiss, and it didn't go that well. But to get to that point, so we're talking about someone that probably hasn't dated very much, if at all.
Right.
In high school, hasn't had a kiss yet. Okay, I think that's a safe assumption. But to get this person to agree to the date, she's doing. Do you know which scene I'm talking about? Where she's like,
oh, I know exactly what you're talking about, because I found that so charming.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, she like tricks him onto a bus and then leaves, and it's like it's just this, like, I want to say it's like a high school ideal romantic, like, this is how it would go if I had all the confidence in the world. But here's the thing.
Right.
That
I found
person
that so
wouldn't.
Charming.
That person wouldn't have that confidence. That person wouldn't have those charms. They wouldn't have that ability to do that. They haven't even dated anyone yet. Like, it's just, I didn't buy that. And it's just, I don't know. It was just, I don't know. The way that she spoke, it didn't seem that genuine. I'm struggling to put it into words in a way that I think is not attacking the character, not attacking the actress, not attacking the writing, but saying, like, I just didn't buy it. I don't see a 16, 17, 18-year-old girl talking this way, or acting this way, especially if she doesn't have any experience dating in that specific instance, or, I
get what you're saying. I mean, keep in mind, it's been a while since we've been that age. I mean, hell, I'm 31 right now. But I do see what you're saying. I mean, I found that whole scene to be extremely charming, but when you really bring it into words, I think I do kind of see what you're saying. I mean, it may seem like, at least to us, a bit of a stretch for someone of that age group to be that charming and that witty, to trick a guy onto the bus and then get off the bus being like, yeah, this ain't my bus. See ya. I know you're into me now. I'd like to think that I was that witty in high school, but then again, I also was high as a kite through most of high school. So I probably thought I was that witty, but I was barely able to say, what's up? And that's back when "What's up" was a thing. So yeah, I see what you're saying.
So it's just little things like that, and it doesn't really. It's not a huge knock against the series. Not a huge knock. It doesn't really change. It shouldn't change your opinion of it. It's just kind of recognizing, like, I don't think this is that believable. I don't think that you could. It just seems unlikely that someone would act like that with this little experience, with that age. It doesn't seem like someone would speak like this. She's. And I guess you could say it's because she's, she wants to be a writer, or she does poetry or whatever, which comes out later. They talk about some of the things that she does.
Right.
But I just, her dialogue seems so unlikely to be coming from a teenager's mouth. It sounded like the words of an older woman writing what she wished she had said in that moment, if that makes sense.
It does. And to a degree, that is kind of what we've got, because keep in mind, these tapes are supposed to be a reflection from over a year later. So it sounds like it could be the dialogue and the musings of someone that's already gone through all of this trauma, that's almost idealizing that aspect of what happened. So, again, that's a theory, but
right.
I'm not the writer, I'm not one of the actors, I'm not the director, I'm just a guy that watched it and loved the show.
So I'm going to continue.
That with what you will.
I'm going to continue poking holes in this, man, because it's the only way I can get through it without feeling something.
Oh no, trust me, I hear you. And feeling something was basically what I ended up doing the entire week. I should not have binge watched the show, despite the fact that everybody's talking about it online. Everybody seems to at least know about this show. Do you have anything that you want to say as far as the review? Because I really want to get on to the second half of this episode, which is our main topic here.
I mean, I've still got lots of holes to poke, man. I say that's not a dirt. I'm just saying, like, there are things about this, like, I am the kind of person that I will try to point out things that are wrong, not to be a jerk, not to be a dick, not to, I'm better, you didn't think. It's like, this doesn't seem consistent. Or I think it would be better if they had addressed this in a different way, because it doesn't seem to line up with some of the other things some of the other connections they're making. This doesn't seem to line up with, you know. So it's just stuff like that. Like, she seemed like she had this really strong, unique personality, and she's, but she makes the same mistake over and over and over again. She keeps going to these places. She keeps going to these places with these people that aren't good to her, and she knows they're not good to her, but she keeps going anyways. And it's just like,
and I'm going to address that later, because I know exactly what you're talking about, and I actually praise the show for that. I praise it for that, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, so we'll kind of hold off on that. As I said, I think this show just is not for me. It's not directed at me. I watched it. I got all the way through it. There was definitely some heavy-hitting stuff in there. Mm-hmm. I found it hard to kind of get beyond some of these issues that I'm speaking about now, which is not to say that it's a bad show, but that was what was sticking out in my mind more, because I just was not really able to relate to any of the characters. If I was going to relate to a character, it would probably have been Clay. That would be my high school experience. Except Clay had Jeff pushing him to do these things, to go to these parties, to be more social, blah, 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 whatever.
Right.
I never had Jeff. So I was Clay without anyone forcing him to not be Clay. I was at home.
Realistically, back in the day, I probably would have been seen much more as the Jeff type character as well, only far less jockey. I was definitely not an athlete by any stretch of the imagination, but that was far more my personality type.
Yeah, so I guess
been your Jeff.
Maybe. Where
Minus
the fuck were
death.
you? Where the fuck were you, man?
Couple of states over, buddy. Couple of states over.
Yeah. You and my girlfriend. Same answer. Where were you? Oh, I was a couple states away. Like, it's my
Adrian,
fault.
I'm still depressed that you were out there somewhere and you weren't looking for me. Okay, I'm still depressed about that. So you want to cross swords? We'll cross swords.
I think we'd have to live stream that, I think. So, all right, but yeah, I guess my issue, and I sit here and I say it and recognize that it's probably not fair to say, because there's so many other things that are for me. It's not for me. There weren't any characters I felt very relatable, you know.
I get
So it's just I avoided all of that. So I just don't understand some of this, I guess. I didn't go to the parties in high school. I didn't go to the dances. I specifically avoided the sports and all that stuff. I did my best to get out of there as fast as I could. And that's one of the things that I didn't understand with this girl. She seemed like she was pretty intelligent. She seemed like she was pretty artistic. Maybe it just wasn't an offering where she was, but I hated high school so much that I studied my ass off to go to post-secondary. So I was doing college courses like junior and senior year. So I didn't even see people in my high school. And that was how I got through it. So I guess they kind of address that a little bit, that, you know, she's so upset about the things that have been happening to her that her grades are slipping, so she probably wouldn't have been able to do post-secondary anyways.
Right.
But I don't know. I guess I don't understand how how she dealt with her problems, or how she didn't deal with her problems. But saying that, it sounds like I'm an asshole, because like everyone has problems. Everyone has problems. They all deal with them differently. So
That's
you know,
true.
and some people some people can fight through them, and some people struggle with them more, and some people struggle with them so much they can't get past them. And I feel like I was somewhere in the middle. Like I struggled, but I knew the things that were bad for me. Or I knew the things that were worst for me. I won't say like staying up all night and playing video games was good for me. You know, it got me through a lot of things that would have been way worse for me.
Oh, same here.
But I wouldn't say that it was good for me.
Yeah, I don't know that I would have made it through high school if it wasn't for both Hobart and Dickey from Couldn't Be Models. I mean, we helped each other out so much in high school because all three of us, I mean, definitely myself, dealt with a lot of the stuff that Hannah went through in our own way at certain points in high school. Not by the years that she was in, because she ended up killing herself at the beginning of, I believe it was junior year. Actually, the ship was relatively righted for me at that point. I can't say that for everybody that I know. So,
Right.
I mean,
Right. And that timeline actually is that lines up pretty well, because with me, as I said, I had to get out of there. Like I could not do 4 years of high school. I would have ended up like Hannah Baker somehow, some way. I was so ready to be out that I was like, I busted my ass to get out, because I knew if I didn't, I was going to be in trouble. Like things were going to get worse for me.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, this show deals with incredibly heavy subjects, like incredibly heavy subjects. I mean, you've poked some holes in it and everything. And for the record, your points are valid and they're noted. One of them I praise, but I'll get to that in just a second. But this show dealt with incredibly poignant and incredibly important topics, things that needed to be talked about, things that needed to be brought out to the forefront. They don't need to be glossed over and just tackled on a throwaway episode of The Vampire Diaries, if that show's still on. This show brought these things out on Front Street, okay? It dealt with bullying. It dealt with cyberbullying, which is a huge thing, and lots of people don't realize how big of a thing that is. I mean, Brooke was cyberbullied mercilessly in high school. I mean, the things that were said and done to her online were monstrous, and it took her a long time to get over it. And this show really brought that out on Front Street with the cyberbullying that Hannah Baker went through. It deals with subjects of rape. It deals with trying to reach out for help, and it deals with flawed people. And that's what I praised so much about this show. I mean, did it have problems? Yes. I mean, obviously not problems. The problems that I had were not the ones that you seem to have, and they're valid. I definitely see what you're talking about. But I think that this show was a show that needed to be made.
okay. Well, before we go on to the main topic, what is your rating? If you were going to rate it, what is your...
Oh, let's find a way to make this joking and not depressing. So I am going to say...
On a scale of 13 tapes, 13 being the worst, because that's the most number of tapes,
13
and one being the best.
I'm going to give this 2 tapes.
2 tapes?
I'm going to give this 2 tapes, because there are issues that I have with this, but even the soundtrack just hit me in all the right places with this show, man. I actually just, as you were going through your list of holes, as you put them, I even had to look up the song that just really resonated with me and got to me. It was "The Night We Met" by Lord Huron. It was featured
the dancing.
Yes.
The dance. Yeah,
Yes,
that was really well used. I will give you that.
That was very well used, and honestly, I thought that song was absolutely beautiful. So, the soundtrack for this show is out of this world.
I mean, it's no Dark Saga by Iced Earth, but you know. No,
I will be checking that out. So, how about you? Out of 13 tapes, how do you rate this?
I would probably give it about a 5, which is to say it's not bad. It's definitely not bad. It's in the top,
trending. It's trending in the good section.
Yeah, it's up there. I think there's some things they could have cleaned up. I felt like it was kind of long. You know, I know Netflix seems to like to push out these 13 episode series.
They do. This is one show that I think could have been wrapped up in 12 episodes if they had compiled.
Yeah.
2 of the episodes toward the beginning. I would love to say compiled 12 and 13, but they should not have, and I'm glad they did not.
Yeah.
Toward the beginning of the season, if they'd compiled like tapes 1 and 2 together, or maybe tapes 2 and 3 together, I think it would have made the series as a whole stronger. But, you know, I think it was right around the appropriate length. I think it was 1 episode too long.
Yeah, I could see that. Maybe I would probably try to cut out. I would see if I could cut out maybe 2 or 3 episodes.
To try to get it down to a 10
If I could cut it down to about 10, would be, I think, the sweet spot for me. But I don't know if it's possible with the way that they did it, because it was like each episode was a tape.
Right.
You know? And so it's kind of like, if you're talking about 10 episodes for 13 tapes, then how do you condense it? And then some of them will spill over from one episode to the next, which, you know, how do you deal with that?
Right.
I'm sure it could be done. I'm sure they had a lot of decisions to make when it came to the footage and what they used and what they didn't. And I think the 13 episodes was pretty symbolic of the tapes. I think that's why they shot for that. So I guess I can't hold it against them, but I do feel like it.
I can hold it against Luke Cage. You know, I loved it. Luke Cage should have been a lot shorter than 13. I think it was almost double the length that it should have been.
Yeah, it should have been about 6, right?
I would say 8.
Should have been just that first half and then wrap it up.
The second half, rather, for me. I feel like they wasted Cottonmouth as a villain on Luke Cage. But that's a story for another time. We've talked about that before. We'll definitely talk about this in the future. We're like the Cylons right now. This has all happened before. It'll happen again. So yeah, five tapes on my end, and you know what? The one thing that stuck out to me before we go into the topic. Yeah.
One more kind of thing that stuck out to me was it seemed like some people were on. It seemed like there was vastly different reasons why people were on these tapes. Like most of them deserved to be on it.
Yes,
but there was
definitely.
one dude that if I really like sat down and analyzed the thing or things that he did, I was like, really? You get a full tape, an episode to like dedicated to you, and you might be able to guess who it is.
I'm gonna say it's Zach.
Which one was Zach? No. Zach. That was pretty important, right? He was one of the first ones.
Honestly, I think that they were all important in their own way. What about?
I felt like Marcus was like, out of everyone, he did like the least. Not that it was cool, but he did like.
Yeah, I get that.
He was shitty, but is like on the scale of him versus everyone else, he was like the least shitty out of all of them, and he had the least interaction with her, and it's just, I don't know. I was like, he gets a full tape for that. Really?
Yeah.
Like everyone else I kind of get, but he was just like, he kind of half stood her up for a date. And then
he half stood her up for a date and then tried to take advantage of her in the middle of a restaurant.
So you're like, hey, I totally agree. Not cool.
No,
but
not
a full
at all.
tape,
But a full tape
for that versus
it.
what some of the other people did to her?
Yes.
Come on.
Yeah. This is one thing I do know is different in the book as opposed to the show. In the book, when her buddy there, whose name is completely escaping me, her female friend.
Jessica,
thank you. I know that when Jessica smacks her in the book, she cuts Hannah's forehead and Hannah has a scar. That much I do know. She hits her that hard, she breaks the skin.
Okay.
So, which to me kind of drives home the point a little bit more. I kind of wish they would have done that. Because a hit like that just has so much more rage and malice behind it, you know? So, I don't know.
Yeah, but I guess at the end of the series, though, they're trying to they're taking everyone on the journey, and so
Yes,
where Jessica
definitely.
is, where she starts, where that happens, and where she ends are all really different places.
Very
And so
true.
I could see you making the decision to maybe tone that back. Um,
Yeah,
right or wrong, you could argue at that that
yeah.
one that didn't bother me that much. But again, I wasn't aware of that because I didn't know anything about the books.
I just happen to know that. I mean, Brooke had read the book, so she refused to watch the series. And
Really?
I get it. I mean, the book really affected her because she went through uh, cyberbullying, which was horrible for her. So this book really drudged up a lot of bad feelings for her. She didn't go through, luckily, a lot of the other things that Hannah ended up going through, and obviously
Right.
she's still alive. But what happened to Brooke was monstrous, and this book really affected her. So when she found out that they were making a series, she was overjoyed about it. She was thrilled about it, but she flat out said, I'm not watching it. There's no way
Yeah.
I can subject
Yeah.
myself to that. I'm going to have PTSD watching this show. And you know what?
Right.
I get that, and I respect the hell out of that. But this is a show that needs to be made for multiple reasons. For the people that have gone through it, that might still be going through it, to be able to see themselves on television represented in a true way.
Mhm.
And also for the types of people that might be perpetrating acts like some of her quote unquote friends did, that kind of drove her in the direction that Hannah went, to see the world through a different lens. American Beauty style. Look a little bit closer on the other side of the fence. And also just so that people that may not be involved in either direction of it, so that they can see the ramifications of what tiny insignificant events in some cases, like what Marcus did, or like what Zach did, or like what Alex did by creating the hot list.
Right.
Events that, personally for me, never would have amounted to fucking dick. I mean, when Jessica ends their friendship and smacks her, I've been in situations where friendships have ended like that, and I've never gotten those friends back or never even wanted to have those friends back. And in some cases, they've come and apologized, and, we're fine, but we're never friends like that again. And I turned out fine. And I realized, especially later on, that I'm better for that. But here's the key thing, and here's the one of the key messages that I think that this show has, and then we can start our topic. Every single one of these events until you get to the end are so small and insignificant that one to maybe four or five of them could just really make for a really bad time, but you'll get through it. But when all of these events continuously happen and compound on each other and keep building, it turns into a perfect storm that just sends someone into a downward spiral to a degree where they don't find a way out or sometimes can't find a way out. I mean, I've known a lot of people that have killed themselves, which is one of the reasons why this show was resonated with me so deeply. A guy that actually helped me out a lot when I was in high school named Brad. He ended up killing himself the day before my junior prom. So watching this show, I remembered him. I remembered this girl that I knew named Donaway. Sadly, I remembered Donaway's brother. I mean, a brother and sister both ended up killing themselves in the exact same way as well. So I remember so many of these people, and it affected me so deeply to think about what they might have been going through. And Brad was a really popular guy by all accounts in my high school too. So I mean, and this is way before not way before, but before the real advent of social bullying and online bullying. And
All I can say about that is I'm so glad that I didn't have to grow up with that. I feel bad for people
Yeah.
growing up now that have to deal
Yeah.
with that because it's like permanent record. It's all online.
Exactly.
People can fuck with you at
Exactly.
any point, at any time. There's no solace from it. At least when I was going to school, if somebody wanted to bully me, they had to be present.
Precisely.
They had to be
Precisely.
physically around me, so I could hide
And then they
with
had to
my
deal
computer.
with me physically too.
Yeah,
When they
yeah.
wanted to bully me, they had to deal with me physically. And I am not a small man. I've got some muscle and some mass behind me here. I may be a fucking nerd and a half talking about Iron Fist and shit, but you would still have to deal with me physically.
Yeah, it was a much more civilized time.
Right.
Bullies were more gentlemanly. They approached you in person. It was none of this
Right.
hiding behind internet stuff. So
Exactly.
it wasn't more civilized, but it was
No.
it was a lot nicer because you had a solace. You had a place. You had home.
Right.
if your home was good, maybe you're getting it from your parents or your siblings at home, and you don't have that. But you could get away from those people, and
Right.
now it seems like you can't.
I mean, back in our time in high school, we knuckled people up. If we had a disagreement, we catch me outside, and we got into fistfights a lot. We would get suspended over these fistfights. Yeah, we had AOL Instant Messenger, and we could throw up some nasty messages and whatnot, but that was pretty much the way it went, was AIM. I mean, I was out of high school even really before MySpace really took hold.
Mm-hmm.
And now, I mean, with this show, it takes place during the years 2015 all the way up through 2017. We're in an age right now where this poor girl, Hannah Baker, fictional or not, she's on her first date with a guy who happens to take a picture of her as she's going down the slide, which is an upskirt where you see her panties, and she essentially can become a meme in another continent. That's the world that we live in now.
Yeah.
And it's a terrifying and dangerous world. More so than getting into fistfights and getting scars like what I have, Because these are scars that you may not be able to see on the outside, but you can definitely feel them on the inside, like what happened to her. That's why I think that this show is so damn important, is because it shows in an unflinching way the ramifications of what these things can do, what words can do, what cyberbullying can do. I just think that it may not be a perfect show, but it is a very important show.
It is, but at the same time, what do we take away from this? That cyberbullying sucks. All bullying sucks. There's no way to get away from it. And I mean, I understand that the lesson is, if just one person would have reached out, maybe things would have been different, or one person would have done this, or
Right.
If they all let her down, this or that, and they all feel super bad now. But I mean, it's one of those things like kids don't really get that. They don't have that. Oh, well, something bad could happen if I continue to do this. It doesn't click until it hits them most of the time. That's
Right.
why they're kids. They don't have that life experience of like, oh, if I'm not nice to this person, they're going to have a shitty day.
Precisely.
And if everyone's not nice to this
Precisely.
person, they're going to have a shitty life, and maybe they aren't going to want to live it anymore. Like so I mean, like, what is...
Actually,
like,
your
great.
mindset brings me right into the first thing that I wanted to talk about with one of your holes there. I think it's
Go
time
for
to
it.
I think it's time to jump right into the main topic. And the main topic for this episode is, when is the things that we see depicted on television and in movies going too far? Okay? What you just said there is exactly something I wanted to touch on, because you said way back about one of your holes. I just really wanted to point out, Hannah is an unreliable narrator in a lot of ways, because Hannah is very flawed.
Mm-hmm.
Hannah's extremely flawed. It shows her, and in her narrative, when she keeps saying, I shouldn't have gone back there, but I did anyway. My feet kept moving, but I didn't anyway. That is so important to me, because it shows the dual nature of not only being a person, but also being a teenager, wanting to go to these parties, wanting to be accepted. Maybe this one party somebody will talk to me, because I've been that person in the past. The part that's the most poignant for me is actually tape 13, when she goes to talk to the guidance counselor, because she went in there and set him up to fail.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily believe what he said was wrong. The way he went about doing it was a very insensitive, very flippant way of doing it, despite the fact that ultimately what he was trying to say was, if you don't come forward with this, with names or with proof, there's really no way for us to move forward with prosecution. So we have to come up with a plan. There are other ways to say what he was saying, but essentially the words he chose to use was, well, you can do it this way, or you can get over it and move on. And to a girl that's that far down the rabbit hole, that's all she needed to hear to finally go off and kill herself. But here's the thing. Hannah could have said more. She could have done more when she went down to sit with him. Mm-hmm. She didn't, and I truly believe this, just watching it, she didn't want to. She sat there recording him. She came across as almost like she was setting him up on a sting. Like, if this person doesn't help me, it's all over. She says that she wanted to give life one more chance. I feel like she gave life a half chance at best.
Yeah, I totally agree. But I
At
mean,
best.
she kind of says that as she's walking out of that. She says, you all failed me and I failed me too. It's
Yes.
like, and I gave up too.
I was happy for that last little bit of dialogue because it almost seemed somewhat self-aware, but not quite. It seemed like she might have subconsciously have known it, but not fully consciously have known that she set the guidance counselor up to fail, who ultimately was the last interaction she had with someone before she killed herself in the bathtub.
Which that scene was gruesome.
Yes.
I was like,
There are three scenes I want to talk about.
That was hard to watch.
There are three scenes I want to talk about, and we'll end with the suicide scene, and then we'll continue on from there. The first scene, just because I have a hard time watching rape in any type of show, this television show has two scenes where rape takes place. The first one is where Hannah is at a party, hiding in the closet, and witnesses her former best friend, someone that she was at one point incredibly close with, being raped by the most popular kid in school named Bryce. And she's frozen and terrified watching this happen to her friend who's passed out drunk. She's watching from the closet. And, we can all say, oh, well, I would have done this or I could have done that. But once you're in a situation like this, where you're in a room where you're not supposed to be to begin with, you're drunk out of your mind anyway, and you're witnessing this horrible act from a very popular, very liked, and also very, very strong member of the opposite sex that's viciously raping this girl who's all but passed out. It was a very difficult thing to watch, to see not just the act taking place, but also Hannah's reaction to it.
Yeah. I guess we should also, I know this is super late, we should probably say spoilers, right?
Yeah, we probably should. Tell you what, I'll put them in the show notes.
We'll write it in the notes.
Yeah, I'll put them in the show notes.
Go ahead. You should.
The second rape scene is in tape 12, and that was Hannah's rape, where she ends up at a party on what she calls the worst day of her life, which starts out innocently enough, and it starts out with her trying to reach back out to Clay, who you can tell she truly, truly does have feelings for and is like the last bastion of happiness for her. And she's trying to rectify a situation that happened with her and him at this party. So in the process, she ends up losing her parents' deposit for the store that they run, and she volunteered to take that to the bank. She ends up losing that deposit, and it's got several $100s in there, and she feels horrible about it and goes out for a walk to clear her head and ends up at a party. Meets up with Jessica and her boyfriend, who incidentally was her first kiss as well, and gets kind of coaxed into coming into the hot tub and hanging out with them. And everybody goes off their separate ways and, does what the kids do nowadays. I don't know if they're playing like Instagram ball wiffle things. I don't know what they're doing. I'm trying to sound like an old geezer at this point. Trying to make a little bit light before we dive into this scene. But she closes her eyes for just a second and opens them to find the same guy that raped Jessica in the hot tub with her. And he proceeds to very viciously rape her from behind as well. This scene was so difficult for me to watch because it didn't focus necessarily as much on the act of doing it as it did a close-up on Hannah's face. And the acting was just incredibly superb. As you see, there are three general ways that the human brain works when faced with trauma. There's fight, there's flight, and there's freeze. And because of all the trauma that Hannah's gone through, her brain immediately clicked into the freeze aspect of the fight, flight, freeze ratio.
Right.
And you could just see the light go out of her eyes. And it was one of the most heartbreaking, horrible things to watch on this on anything I've ever seen. I mean, it was on the level of Requiem for a Dream for me to see this scene take place, and the camera didn't turn away. It followed the entire scene right from the beginning of it right to the end. I mean, the only solace that we can have is Bryce obviously is a 1-minute man. Obviously, he just can't hold on. So he's a little bitch in that respect, which I'm only throwing out there just to try to bring a little bit of levity here.
But that was just such a horrible, brutal scene to watch.
Yeah.
And the final scene, or the final episode of this show, you see Hannah's suicide. And this, to me, was the most important, powerful, necessary scene in the entire show. Because the messages, I understand what you're saying, you know, what's the real lesson and message that we should take away from this? You know, cyberbullying's bad, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't rape, you know, look what can happen. This, to me, this is why I wanted to jump right into it and not answer your question right away, because this scene really capitalized on everything for me. Because I've been hearing in popular culture and in movies and in television as far back as I can remember about people talking about Romeo and Juliet and, you know, killing yourself for love and doing this and doing that. And, you know, I'm so depressed, I'll just kill myself. We finally have an unflinching, not looking away, unapologetic, dark, gritty version of suicide as Hannah gets into the bathtub, takes a razor blade, and slits both of her wrists and bleeds out. And not only do we get that, but we also get the aftermath when her parents come into the bathroom saying, "Oh, the water's going everywhere." You see her mom's reaction to her suicide. Almost like she doesn't believe what she's seeing, like, "Oh, she's just asleep. Wake up, honey. Wake up, honey." And you see her dad come in, and he is bereft immediately, and he knows exactly what's going on. You almost see her mom regress to the version of her mother that would hold her as a little child. Yep. And you see her dad knowing that they're, in one instant, this is final. There's no coming back from this. My child is dead. My child is gone. But the mother cannot process that in that moment. But more importantly, the scene where she kills herself is over a minute long. And you see her screaming out in pain, and you see the blood flowing into the bathtub. And you see the razor fly, or just slowly go through her skin on both. And you see how much pain she's in with one, and how much determination she has to take the razor blade into the hand that was just cut open and open the other hand.
Right.
There was nothing good about this. There was nothing romantic about this. There was nothing glamorous about this. There was nothing poetic about this suicide.
Yeah, that was really important too. Don't show that it's like some beautiful. Exactly. Oh, she looks like an angel now. She's like now exactly. She looks like a corpse. She looks like she's dead. She looks
worse than some of the walkers in The Walking Dead in the first season. She's dead. She is gone. She is a corpse. She is lifeless. She looked worse than Laura Palmer in Twin Peaks. She looked worse than the victims that you see in The Killing, which both of those shows have a very similar vibe and feel to how this show unfolds. That was one of the hardest things that I've ever had to sit down and watch in any media. Media. That one scene was almost worse than Requiem for a Dream. And I'm even referring to the ass-to-ass scene at the end with Jennifer Connelly. And that's a movie that I've only watched 2 times in my life. I don't like that movie. I respect that movie. I think that movie is a phenomenal film. Again, a film that needed to be made. Probably the reason that I don't know very many people that have ever done heroin. I'll say that much. Right. Show them Requiem for a Dream, and you pretty much killed the urge to do heroin. I think that this show is on that level. I think that this show was important, if only for that one scene. But here's the reason that I decided to have this topic. There's been a lot of conversation online as to whether that scene, that episode as a whole, was too much. And I really want to hear your thoughts and opinions on it and other examples that you think might have towed that line.
See, the only thing that came to mind when you were kind of telling me about this topic and stuff that towed the line or went over the line, the first thing that popped into my mind was the show 24. But that was on broadcast TV. That was on Fox. I don't know that there was anything that was really this impactful and that's heavy. I mean, I know that they showed some pretty grisly interrogation scenes. They showed Jack Bauer just willing to do whatever. Do whatever, illegal, legal, doesn't matter. To
They
get
did.
the information he needed, to get the results he needed. He just did whatever.
Yes. Now, 24 also has certain elements of what we're talking about where the camera doesn't turn away. Because one thing that I praise on 13 Reasons Why is, even in a filmmaker's standpoint, there are certain spots where it's an obvious transition to another shot. They decided to not do that in a lot of instances and just keep the camera right where it is and let the scene play out for almost an uncomfortable amount of time.
Yep.
Just to drive it home. 24 does that as well. Specifically the end of season 3 when he's in the SUV breaking down after his last day. And they've done that with a couple of interrogations. I think season 5 when he's got the bag over, I think it's his brother's face, where it just goes on for an uncomfortable amount of time. So,
yeah.
24 had some moments. Was there anything in particular that really stuck out to you?
It's been so long since I watched the series, but I just remember just the crazy stuff that they had his character doing and done to him. I mean, there were things where like the entire series, he's being played up as this badass, and he always shrugs it off. It's like, no, like, they're like, oh my God, you're Jack Bauer. You saved the world. You saved the United States so many times. You're such this great person. He's like, nah, that's not me. It's like, I'm Jack Bauer, but I'm not this great person.
Yeah.
And so,
I'm Jack Bauer. I'm a monster with a cause.
Exactly. And he gets built up, and the show does a good job of building him up into this just superhuman, like G.I. Joe, amazing hero. And then I don't remember what season it is, but at one point, I think it's towards late in the series, and he's been through hell. He's been through hell his entire life. He's been through hell throughout the series from what we've seen. I think he's getting interrogated, or he had just gotten done being captured and interrogated, and he has his shirt off, and you see his back, and it's just covered, shoulder to shoulder, neck to ass, covered in scars and scar tissue, and you're just like, oh my God, like,
yeah,
this guy is not necessarily a badass. I mean, it's badass, but this guy's been through hell.
Yeah.
He's absolutely been through hell, and that's why he's willing to do the things that he does.
Absolutely.
And that's why it bothers him, but he knows that he has to do it because he's had it. He's been on the receiving end of this stuff too.
Yeah. There was a throwaway line from the movie The Frighteners that always stuck out because I don't forget which season it is, but I know what scene you're talking about too. But there's a throwaway line in The Frighteners that always stuck with me when I saw that, and that was when that crazy weird detective guy, that's kind of the antagonist, says, "My body is a roadmap to pain." And that line always stuck out to me. Every time I watch that scene where Jack Bauer takes his shirt off and you just see all the burns and the scars and the carnage that's happened to his body. That line always pops into my head.
So, I mean, that was the first thing that popped into my head, and it almost was the only thing. I would say when we're talking about towing the line or what side does it fall on, I'd say that's still, I mean, I don't want to hide behind broadcast TV and that's acceptable or whatever, but I mean, it clearly was okay enough for them to show it on standard channels.
Yeah.
And I think the way that they did it and the way that they showed it, there was a meaning behind it. It was difficult to see, but it was still a worthwhile shot. It still meant a lot. It was still a good addition to the series. The only other thing I could think of where they're kind of that uncomfortable kind of feeling came from the movie series Saw. And I remember, I think I only watched the first two, and they were doing things to their characters that I just couldn't. I mean, it's basically gore porn at that point.
Yeah, it was torture
and
porn.
So it's like that's we're talking about that line, and I think that falls on the other side. It didn't. If you're into that, that's great, and if you love the Saw movies, that's fine. They weren't for me. But I mean, from my perspective, that was there's the line, and they're on the other side of it. They're doing the same thing in a different way for different results, for different reasons.
Right.
And I don't think it holds as much value as what we've been talking about so far. But those were the only two examples that I could really come up with.
I gotcha. Two examples, one on either side of it, that I had, and incidentally, just because I already brought up Requiem for a Dream, I don't want to rehash that because I don't have enough Prozac in this house. But two other movies that really stuck out to me was I Spit on Your Grave and Last House on the Left. And you can choose your poison on that one, remake or the original. Doesn't matter to me. But I always felt like I Spit on Your Grave, the rape and torture scene was a bit gratuitous. It made sense, but it was a bit gratuitous for me. It was necessary to a point to really establish the inciting incident, obviously, of the movie, which is this woman is horribly raped and then she goes on a killing spree and, kills all the motherfuckers. Mm-hmm. But I felt like that scene might have just taken it a bit too far for what the movie needed. Whereas Last House on the Left, the rape scene in that was, and again, choose your poison, because both of them were horrible in their own ways. They were uncomfortably long, but I don't know if they were unnecessarily long for you to truly get that visceral, physical reaction of repulsion.
Right.
And really be on board with what the parents decide to do as far as killing the perpetrators. Because in one version, the girl dies, and the other one, she stays alive. But in either version, she's viciously raped by these outlaws. And again, it's one of those movies where I've seen it, I'm done seeing it. I'm not going to willingly subject my family to this movie, but I think that they're good films. I think Wes Craven was a goddamn genius. But those scenes are hard to watch, but for a different reason. But I really feel very strongly in my heart that 13 Reasons Why, for the same reasons as Requiem for a Dream, I think that this was not an unnecessary or gratuitous scene. I think it did more than drive the plot. I think that it became the plot. I think that this became a message in its own to show that suicide is not this glamorous, beautiful, wonderful out. It's not that thing that you romanticize to get out of your problems. It's not Romeo and Juliet drinking the poison off of each other's lips and dying. It's a bloated corpse. It's bleeding out in a bathtub. It's the chaos. Alone is exactly right. It is the devastation that you leave your friends and family. It's the irreparable damage that you've done to your mother, who's never going to have her little girl. It's the irreparable damage that you've done to your father that's never going to hold her again either. Parents that were so proud of her, that didn't know the pain that she was going through and would have helped in any way that they could, but Hannah never reached out to them in the ways that she should have if she was really as self-aware as she pretended to be in those tapes, which is what I praise about that show so much, because it shows how flawed of a human she was, how she didn't have the faculties, which teenagers do not, as biologically speaking. They do not have the same cognitive reasoning that adults do. And it pissed me off to hear that when I was a teenager, and I'm sure it's going to piss off teenage listeners, but it's not us trying to be douchebags. It's a biological thing. And it pissed me off when I was younger. Wait a couple of years and you're going to understand it. Trust me. She didn't have those faculties. She didn't think to. She didn't think that her parents would or could understand. And unfortunately, the way technology has progressed so quickly, there is unfortunately some truth to that they probably wouldn't understand. Because some adults they don't understand really even what cyberbullying is. And that's where it all began for her. And it became a downward spiral from there.
Yeah. But, and this is kind of going back to her hopes and dreams in the show, is like her dream was to go to college in New York.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. And I don't know if they ever talked about what she wanted to study or which school she wanted to go to, or if there was a specific one. It seems like she just wanted to go to college in New York. It's like, you're so damn close. Like, just power through this bullshit and get to college. And I'm not going to say everything's going to be fixed. Like, you're still going to have a bunch of assholes. There's still probably going to be some cyberbullying, but it's going to ease up. Yes. You're just more free to be who you actually are in college than you are in high school. Just people have grown up and they're more willing to accept you.
Absolutely.
So, but that's really easy to sit here and say, having gone through it on easy mode, as like a white dude with no, technology when I was growing up,
Yeah, but
so
you alluded to the fact already that you were suffering from depression when you were younger.
yeah, I mean, I definitely didn't have a great time. And as I said earlier, it's like the only way that I could get through it, the only way that I knew that I would be able to get through it for sure was to not put myself in those situations,
Right, right.
where I was jealous of this person or envious of the situation, or I was surrounded by people that were not nice to me or were not nice to my friends, or,
Yeah.
like all of those things bothered me. And so I just had to like shut doors. I just had to close myself off and find another way to wait out. It's a storm, and sometimes you can walk through the storm, and then sometimes you just gotta batten
Wait
down
it
the
out.
hatches and wait it out.
Yeah.
And that was what I had to do.
Yeah. And I'm okay to admit that I was very badly bullied for a number of years of my life. It got better toward the end of high school for me. But for a number of years, I was very badly bullied on a daily basis, physically, emotionally. I was a very fat kid. I had giant Coke bottle glasses. I had the stupidest haircut that you can imagine. And I'm not joking about that. I mean, I'll show you pictures. But I was an embarrassment as a child. But I was quiet. I was shy. I was the kid that did not play at recess and just kind of curled up under a tree or in the corner and read because nobody really wanted to talk to me. I had 0 friends in 5th grade. But I did make it through. And I'm not saying that it was easy, but somebody said to me a long time ago, and it's always resonated with me, the sun is going to come up tomorrow with or without you. Personally, if it was up to me, I would choose to be there to see that sunrise. But if you're not here, life will go on and that sun will come up. I'm still going to eat breakfast. Your neighbor is still going to get the paper. It's up to you if you want to be here to see that or not. And that always resonated with me. And that saying really got me through some hard times. And it does get better. Life does get better. And suicide is, and this is a cliche, but it's a true cliche, it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And I know that a lot of people hate hearing that, but it doesn't make it any less true. And I'm not talking about, when you have a terminal disease or something like that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about situations like what Hannah had gone through. Because she had gotten to a point where she was looking for a way out. She had made up her mind. And she didn't use the resources that she had. And maybe in her mind, her brain kept on throwing up roadblocks. But here's the thing about when your brain throws up roadblocks. You can drive right through them. And that's something that you should never forget. So I think we've been melancholy enough on this episode. I think that we've talked about this subject. If any of our listeners out there are suffering with depression or know somebody that's suffering with depression, we would always recommend that you reach out and get help. There are a number of resources that you can find online. There's a number of helplines that you can call on your phone. Or, and I am extending this to all of our listeners or even friends of our listeners, you can reach out to us on our own social media. You can email us privately, artfulgremlin, without the S, at gmail.com. You can reach out to us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/nerdynomicon or facebook.com/nerdynomicon, because we're doing our best to foster a community there. A community of like-minded nerds that all love pop culture, that all love nerd culture, that all love, just bitching and railing about certain things and hyping up certain things, talking about the new Sam and Twitch TV series, bitching about Justice League coming out or, hyping up Justice League, whichever side of the fence you fall on. And what we're trying to do is foster a community of like-minded individuals that can be friends from all different wakes of life. There are plenty of my friends and family in there, as there are friends of Adrian's on there. There's been people that have been joining lately that we have no idea who they are. We just assume that they're listeners. And hopefully they are listeners. So you can reach out to us there. You can email us. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Artful Gremlins, this time with an S. You have resources because we may be podcasters. We may be here to bring you guys funny, free funny and, review TV shows and everything, but we are here to help, and we care about every single one of our listeners. And we are a resource that you can use as well.
I mean, you said it better than I can. You want me to cyberbully your cyberbullies? Let me know.
Do it.
We'll do it.
Totally do it.
We'll do it. We'll do it.
We'll splice them into the It trailer, okay? They can be the new Pennywise running around there. Because let me tell you, it ain't flattering when you become it. We can cyberbully the cyberbullies. Because we got a platform, motherfucker.
Somebody should splice in Cousin It from Addams Family. That's probably already been done, but into the It trailer.
I don't know if that's been done yet, man. We should do this. We should make it happen. We should make this happen.
Okay. I'm on board. Let's do it.
So, all right. Well, we've been depressing enough for this episode. Like we said, if anybody is suffering from any of those, we've given you plenty of resources to contact us directly or to find new friends and other fans of this show, other people to talk about similar interests with you. Even if you're not suffering with depression and you guys just want to reach out and talk with us, hang out with us, you can find us in all the same places: Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And if you guys like what you're hearing, if you want to help move the conversation forward, as Jesse Delamore would say, if you guys want to support our show, help us keep the lights on, you can always donate to us, patreon.com/artfulgremlins. Donate $1, donate $2, $1, you're helping out. $5, you're helping out a fucking lot. $10, you're just being generous at that point. But we love you no matter what. If you guys don't feel like doing that, you don't have the resources, you don't like us enough to give us any money just yet, you just like what you're hearing, you're a little bit on the fence, that's fine. You can still go over to iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, listen to us every single week for free. But please rate and especially review us on iTunes, because every single one of those helps us climb the charts a little bit higher, makes us jump above some of those other pop culture shows so that more people can find us. Because what's the use of being a Nerdynomicon hipster if nobody else is out there to be able to say to them, oh, I liked them before they were cool? Because, yeah, you liked us before we were cool, but we're getting cooler, and you guys can be a part of that.
Damn, that's a hell of a pitch, man.
That's how
Sign me up. Sign me up. Take my money.
Adrian, we've gone crazy long in this episode. What do you say? Are we ready to close the book on this week?
I think we are. I think we've got 2 books to close on this week.
I think we do too. All right, guys. So until next Friday, I've been Robbie.
And I've been Adrian.
Let's close the book.